Hands up if you have an ever-growing pile of cross-stitch charts and kits. And now keep your hand up if you have them all organised, can easily see what you have and find a specific item. If you didn't raise your hand, then you're probably very new to cross-stitching. So here's your heads up in advance that buying cross-stitch supplies and using them are two entirely separate hobbies. If you raised your hand and kept it raised, then wow, amazing job, and I bow to you. Now, I lowered my hand, but actually I am getting pretty close to having it all organised. So I thought I'd share with you some ideas for organising charts and kits. And of course, I'll talk about what I chose to do and why. Hi there, Stitchy friends. I'm Kat from Catkin and Lily, bringing you all the best tips, tricks and tutorials so you can learn more about all things stitchy, grow your stitching skills and get the most joy from your stitching. The best way to organise your kits and charts, both physical and digital, will of course be very personal for you, based on the space you have available, what you find easiest to use, the size of your stash, and maybe your budget, although none of what I'm using is terribly expensive. Your stash of kits, charts and digital patterns may be larger or smaller than mine, but even when you start to collect a few things, it's a really good idea to keep it organised. Most of my stash was in basically the same location, but the main problem was that I couldn't easily look through what I had if I wanted to pick something new to stitch or to find a specific item. So it was definitely time to organise it better. And having researched different options, I wanted to share some of these with you in the hope that you'll find something to inspire you. But first, I want to say that it is absolutely okay to have things in your stash that you're not currently stitching. It might seem odd to non-cross stitchers, but it does not need justification. Sometimes you just want to have beautiful patterns to look at. Sometimes you've bought something you think might become unavailable in the future. Sometimes it's retirement planning. Whatever the reason, it's okay to have a stash of kits and charts, even if you might never get to stitch them. It's a collection of things you enjoy. No one asks why you might collect coins, figurines, ornaments, art, or any number of other things just to enjoy them. I realise cross-stitch could be seen as slightly different to this, as it is something that's meant to be used. But what about collecting shoes or handbags? They have utility, but if you have a huge collection, then realistically, you will have ones that don't get used often or at all. Slight tangent there, but really, I just want to say, please don't feel guilty about wanting to own a collection of charts and kits. Okay, so I'm going to break this down into three sections: kits, paper charts, and digital patterns. Although there is some overlap between all of these, and in fact, my system aims to combine almost everything into one place. My main considerations were to keep kits and charts in good condition and free of dust, to be able to easily look through or find a specific item, and to be able to quickly put charts and kits in and out of the storage system. It's also worth considering upfront whether you feel it would be helpful to group your kits and patterns in some way, for example by theme, such as Christmas, spring, floral, travel, or you could group them by designer. You could also group them by size, so when you want to start something new but only want a small project, then you have those grouped together. If you do have a lot, or are using a system where it's harder to look through everything, then you could also make a list, spreadsheet, or use an app as a reference for you to catalogue everything and search for items. You could even extend this to digitising all your paper patterns and kits by scanning or photographing them and adding them to a spreadsheet or app. I'm not going to dive into this topic here, but I might well revisit that in future. So I would love to know if you use anything to digitally track your inventory of kits and charts. Okay, let's get into storage options, and I'm starting with kits. Now, kits are usually the trickiest because they can physically be larger and more bulky because of the supplies contained in them. And in this category, you may also have projects that aren't kits, but that you have kitted up or partially kitted up. So, for example, charts that you have already put with fabric, threads or beads, etc., such as this one that I've got the beads for. For similar reasons of size and bulkiness, it might be helpful to store these in the same way as your kits. The obvious go-to option here is to use boxes, baskets or storage bins. I do prefer ones where you can stand the kits on their side so you can easily flip through them and therefore see what you have. And if you have lots of kits, then you could add pieces of cardboard to divide the boxes into sections and label those. Stackable boxes with lids are great for maximising use of space, and you could always split your kits into different boxes by theme or designer. But it may be harder to easily see what you have at a glance, particularly if you've got lots of kits all in one box. Drawers could work, especially if you have a unit with lots of small drawers. So again, you could categorise your kits. But again, it might be harder to see what you have, and I'm not sure this would be the most efficient use of space. If you do use multiple boxes or drawers, etc., make sure you label them on the outside so you know what's in each section. I don't think these two options would work so well for charts, but lots of the options for charts could also work for kits. So let's move on to options for those and you'll see what I mean. My first option for storing charts is expanding organisers or concertina folders. These have lots of sections and you could put individual charts or groups of charts in each section. They can easily be labelled and the overall container doesn't take up too much space. I personally find them a little unwieldy, but it's very easy to put things in and take them out of here. Next up, we have Ziploc or zipped bags or pouches. And these could be used for a single chart in each one, or you could collate several charts with the same theme or by designer. Some can be labelled, but the main disadvantage here is that it's not easy at all to look through what's inside. And you would still need to store these in a secondary container, such as a box or basket. Or with my third storage option, which is hanging storage. So, as I said, this works well with some form of Ziploc or zipped bags, as you can clip them onto skirt or trouser hangers and hang them on a rail. The downside to this is having a free hanging space or creating one. And if you have a lot of charts, then this could actually take up quite a lot of space and then potentially be harder to flip through to see what you have. A plus point is that this system could very easily be used for kits as well as charts. Just make sure each bag is not too heavy. Next up is hanging files that you can put into a filing cabinet or in a portable box file. So again, you can use each folder for a chart or collection of charts, and they can be easily labelled. I like that this is a good sturdy option and could easily be moved around if you use a standalone box file. So it does have lots of advantages. The downside is it might be slightly harder to flip through, but getting things in and out is very easy, so I do like this option a lot. Next, we have magazine file boxes. Now these can look very neat and pretty when placed on a shelf or in a storage unit, but I find they're a little tricky to use when you have charts of all different sizes, and it's really quite difficult to see what's in there. I also find that if the box isn't pretty much full, then items sag and can get a little wonky and bent. Our next option is ring binder folders. These are a great and very inexpensive option, and you can use plastic pockets to slide patterns and charts into to avoid having to hole punch them. There is a small risk of them getting stuck to the plastic, but I don't feel this is very likely, and it's also not likely to be a huge problem unless the pattern itself is right against the plastic. You could use large ring binders or even lever arch binders and add section dividers, or have lots of smaller binders. My final option is a display book. And this works basically the same as a ring binder, but it's all in one piece, and again, you can just slide patterns into the pockets. Okay, so let's look at what I did. I decided to go with a selection of small, thin display folders so that I could group my charts by theme. So I have one for each season, one for Christmas, one for Halloween, and a general one, and currently one spare. So here's my general display book, and able to slot in here all of these charts, even some quite large ones, some booklets, and I've even managed to get in some like this that have actually got some matching pins in there as well. I even got a few entire kits in here, not in this one, but I have got a few small kits in some of the other folders as well. For items that are too bulky to go in the display wallets, I'm using a ring binder with popper wallets. And these can accommodate a kit, for example, like this one, or this one that has small elements with it, or ones where I've already got some bits and pieces to go with it. These ones have got some threads, I've got a magazine in here as well, and another small kit. So these ones are great just for anything that doesn't quite fit into the display wallets. So I have one of those ring binders that you've just seen for general. I have one for historical sampler company subscription boxes, as they come with supplies, and I have quite a few of those. I also have a ring binder for up next. So this is where I put the things that I want to stitch next. Again, I've used the popper wallets to allow space for me to start putting things in here to collect some supplies. You can see I've collected some threads for this one already. So it gives me a place to start collecting things, and it also gives me a place to go to when I want a new start. I do have one style of kit, these ones in boxes, that don't fit in any of these options, but I can just stand these up on a shelf next to the folders. Finally, let's talk about digital patterns. Now, these can actually sometimes be the trickiest. Storage is not a problem here, as they don't take up any physical space, but it's so easy to forget what you have and you can't easily look through them. I organise my digital patterns on my computer in folders by designer. These are all on an external hard drive and also in cloud storage, so that if anything happened to my laptop, I wouldn't lose them. There are a couple of ways that you can more easily see what digital patterns you have. The first way is pretty old school, and what I've done for now, which is just to print out the front cover of any digital patterns and add it to my chart storage. So like these. I don't want to print entire patterns before I know I want to stitch them, and I may not want to print a pattern at all if I'm going to put it into Pattern Keeper or similar. But this method allows me to have them visible in the same folders I use for charts, so I can see everything all in one place. If I so wished, I could even print the front cover more than once and put it in multiple folders. So I could have the same chart front cover in spring and floral. Okay, I don't have a floral folder, but you get the idea. The next option is to use an app or spreadsheet, such as I talked about earlier. And as I already mentioned, I'm not going to dive into this today, but I may well look into it in future. So, what's next? Well, there are still two areas that require some organisation for me, and that's magazines and small freebie kits. Magazines can present an extra challenge, especially if you have quite a lot. Magazine file boxes are, as you might expect, perfect for storing them. And you can also buy specific magazine binders that have wires or clips to hold the magazines in place, so you can even flip through them without taking them out of the binder. However you store magazines though, the challenge is knowing what's in them, remembering things that you wanted to stitch, and finding something specific. I am considering going through and removing only the patterns that I want to keep, and then putting these into ring binders grouped by theme. The alternative is, once again, to take pictures of anything I think I might want to stitch and add them to a spreadsheet or app, which has the advantage of keeping the magazine intact. I do have quite a lot though, and the collection keeps on growing, so the first option might actually be preferable. So I also have a very large number of free kits that came with magazines, which are currently stashed in a drawer which is pretty full to bursting. Many of these I will never stitch, but some are very cute and would make nice quick projects. But I just don't know what I've got in there. So I think I need to go through and pull out the ones I want to keep and then find a better storage solution for those. Very likely a small plastic bin. And then I can donate the rest to other stitchers or to a charity shop. It feels really good to have my kits, charts and patterns almost all organised now. And I hope this video has given you some ideas for organising and storing your own stash. I'd love to hear how you store your kits and chart stash, or if you've been inspired by anything I've shared. If you enjoyed this video, it would be awesome if you could give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a single stitch. And it will also make sure that my tips and tutorials can reach and help more cross stitchers. If you're looking for more support from me and a fabulous community of stitchy friends, then I'd love for you to join my Patreon membership. You can find advice and inspiration and enjoy extra stitchy chat videos with me and regular live Q&As. Thank you so much for watching and happy stitching!